in business alone, I've seen so many people who don't choose something based on, oh, what if something goes wrong? And it's like, it might. Business is not a sure thing. I've lost money, I've lost companies, I've made money, I've been successful, I've done it all. And that's when I realized that I was $187,000 in debt. Are you the type of person who wakes up in the morning and complains about what you don't have? Or are you the type of person who wakes up in the morning and goes, okay, what's it going to take for more money to show up in my life? What would I have to choose? I literally went through all my accounts and then started using these tools. They changed my financial reality. Because here's the thing too. When you make more money than everybody else in your family, you make people uncomfortable. How many people only make enough money so that they can be comfortable at the next family party gathering? Like, I know that sounds insane. The question I've been asking recently is, hey universe, show me something I haven't been willing to receive yet.
There goes a sight from my soul.
Welcome to the Inspired Evolution, and it is such a treat to be here today. We have with us Simone Milasas. Have I said that right, Simone? Have I gotten it right? I've gotten it wrong. Milasas.
Nobody ever gets it right, so it's totally fine.
Oh, thank you so much for being so accommodating for me. Thank you so much for being here with us. For those tuning in to Simone for the first time, she's an advanced facilitator and business development coordinator of Access Consciousness. But she's got many of her own businesses in her own right. She actually catapulted to significant success after having dug herself out of, I think it was almost 200K in debt. Simone, am I quoting myself?
187,000 Australian dollars in debt. I found myself. Yes, you are correct.
Oof. Okay, so we're going to dive deep into consciousness and entrepreneurship and business. And as you know, the Inspired Evolution, all about spiritual entrepreneurship. So yeah, really excited to have you here today and just wanted to take a moment to thank you for being here with us. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me here.
And you're tuning in from sunny Queensland. So this is like the first time for those that are tuning in, or not the first time, but first time in a long time, I'd say, that we're actually listening to two similar accents, I imagine, in this episode, two Aussies.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I know. So many interviews, etc., for someone overseas. So same time zone. Hot and humid here. So there you go. There's my weather report.
Yeah, it's actually warming up here too, which is actually refreshing. We're definitely heading into autumn. So cool. So I want to dive into starting at the sort of nexus of your book. You wrote a book called Joy of Business. And when you first wrote it, well, not when you first wrote it, but then over time it started to get translated in other cultures, and even other cultures were like, we don't really put... How do you put these two words together, joy and business? We can't title your book for you in our language. And just the idea that joy and business don't go together. Tell us a little bit about what prompted you to write this book, man, please.
Well, that was my first book. I've actually written 3 books, and that was the first book. And look, I was delusional. I always thought that people, enjoyed what they did and they were happy in business, etc. And I don't know, I just thought that why would you do something if you didn't enjoy it was always my point of view. So when I was talking to a friend of mine, my colleague, Gary Douglas, who's the founder of Access Consciousness, and we're in Perth in Western Australia, and we're having this conversation about something one day, and someone was choosing something, and I went, why are they choosing this? This is business, and business is joyful. And he looked at me and he went, what? And I went, business is joyful. I said, you choose business for the joy of it. And he went, no, you don't. And I went, yes, you do. And we had this like back and forth. And then I looked at him and he went, Simone, he said, you've got to get, you're different. And that was the first moment that I was like, what? And I remember I was in Sydney, and I was going to the pub on a Friday night, and I just got this new job. And a friend of mine said to me, you make me sick how much job satisfaction you get. And I said, what do you And he said, Simone, I've known you for years, and every single job you get, you come in and you're so excited about it, and you're just like, oh my God. He said, most people are like, oh, Monday. You're like, Monday.
Yeah.
So then I started realizing, like, then once you have someone point it out to you, you start to hear like those whispers. And I started noticing people and how they were reacting, etc., to business and all of that. So then Gary said to me, he said, look, you need to do some classes about this. So I did. I started doing some classes. And to be honest with you, Amrit, I was doing classes thinking, oh, this is boring. Like, this is a 2 hour class. And they're to me, they were really simple tools. And I could be running a business rather than just talking about it. But then I got people coming up and they were so grateful. And their gratitude and all of that was just so astounding to me that I went, oh, this actually matches the energy of what it is I'd like to create in the world. And that is to invite people to a different possibility. So I did these classes and I watched how people started to like institute the tools and change their life. And so simple. So then I went, okay, next move, like next action step, which is all the joy business for me. Next action step is put it into a book. And I actually, here's the funny thing is I called it Joy Business and Gary said to me, don't call it that. And I said, why not? And he said, people don't get it. They won't get it. And I said, but that's what it is. And he said, yeah, but don't call it that. He said, no one will want to buy the book. And I stood my ground and I was like, that's what it is. I'm calling it Joy Business. So I did. And then now, as you mentioned, it's translated, I think, into 16 different languages. We're about to launch Russian, ironically. And we're trying to figure out how to print books in Russia at the moment. But anyway, that's another story.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, every single translator has pinged me and said, hey, this doesn't make sense in our language. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense in English either. So, it's like, I'd say to them, okay, give me the words you think you could use. And literally how I've chosen that in all of the languages is energetically, like listening and going, okay, tell me more about this word. Tell me more about this word. Like, what's that? And then going, that word, use that one. And that's how we've created the name of Joy Business in all these different languages.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think, we're definitely going to talk about energetics, especially around business, because, you speak to it so easily, actually, when I found researching yourself and all the content in there. And one of the things that I found quite remarkable is it's the acronym of the book in English is Job with a capital B.
I know.
So it's Job with a capital B is actually the joy of business, and it's almost like you're working for yourself. And I wanted to ask, at the juncture of one of the things you were sharing was you always had really high job satisfaction. Now, is that a function of A, who you specifically are, and maybe you are different, or B, the opportunities that you sought out were properly tailored to you? Which one was it?
I'm going to hold up the card and say it's AB. It's both. And I tell you why. It's because I do think I'm different, but I also, like, one of the things I've always done is looked for what was exciting and thrilling for me. And then when I was done, I was done. So therefore, though, every job interview I went to, like there's a few I went to, and they would say, have you seen your resume? Like it doesn't look that great. And because I would leave a job, I was done. And they're like, then you look like you're not willing to commit. You're not willing to settle down. You're not willing to do all of this. But I would go to a job and I would learn something, and it was like, okay, now I'm bored and I'm done. Like I remember one of the jobs I had in Sydney, and it was a sales manager for a wholesale clothing company, and I loved it. And I used to earn commission and loved the clothes, loved dealing with clients all over Australia, and did all of that. And I actually started at that place working in the warehouse. And the guy who owned the business said to me, why do you want to work in the warehouse? And I went, I just want to work in the warehouse. I want to see how it's run. So I started in the warehouse. It said, you're so overqualified. I just got back from traveling overseas and I was like, I don't know what I want to do, So I worked in the warehouse and very quickly worked my way up. And then it was after a while, I was there for a few years, and I walked into his office and he looked at me and he said, you're leaving, aren't you? And I went, yeah. And he said, yeah. He said, look, the next thing I can do is give you is shares of the company. And he said, I haven't even done that with my kids. And he said, and I was really grateful because he got it. He was like, you've done everything that you were meant to do here. And he was a really cool guy. And he was like, look, I do think it's time for you to go find out what else you want to do. And that was always, I've never sort of held on to a job because I'm like, oh, what happens if I don't have money to pay the rent? I've always, I don't know what it is, but I have this awareness that I'm always going to be okay. I'm going to create something different. I mean, I remember, Sydney Mardi Gras, right? There was one time in Sydney, I didn't have much money. I so wanted to go to all the parties in Sydney and go to Mardi Gras and everything. And we didn't have money. But for me, I was like, well, that's not going to work. Okay, what do I need to do? And glitter was very much all the rage. So my friend and I went and got these. I found a wholesale company that did these little plastic tubs, and we brought all of these plastic tubs and we brought this gel and glitter and we sat at my kitchen bench and we made like about 6 different shades of glitter that you could, put on your body, etc. And had these big baskets, dressed up really colorful, walking down Oxford Street going, glitter for $5, hugs for free, glitter for $5, hugs for free. We got a lot of hugs and we sold a lot of glitter, enough to go pay for the tickets that we wanted to have for Mardi Gras. So it was like, I've always been like that though. Instead of sitting at home going, moaning that I can't do something, it's like, well, what can I do? What action can I take to make this happen? And that's up to each person. Each person has the capability to choose that. But you got to choose it, you got to leap, and you got to keep moving forward,
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, because the question was going to be then, if it is equal parts who you are and equal parts the opportunities that you create, what do you teach, right? Because how can you teach someone to be you? But in the seminars, as you shared, I guess the question still kind of stands, but I think you've alluded to the fact that you've got to go out and create. And I've looked at your work. You are a compulsive creator, it would seem.
Oh, look, I have a lot of different things going on. I don't just settle for something normal. I'm definitely different, I would say. And I always thought that was a little normal, and I realized that, I mean, I don't know, I have my main business is working with access consciousness and traveling the world, running seminars, etc. And then I'm a partner in 3 different antique shops in Australia, one in Prigian Beach, 2 in Brisbane. I'm part owner of a castle in Italy, which I never thought that would happen, which is so beautiful. And also I'm, part owner and developing this property in Costa Rica called El Lugar. That's going to be this huge, amazing, eco resort. There's so many different things. I mean, I just went to India last week and I was doing a seminar there. And I went to this area in New Delhi called Paharganj, where I used to do business 25 years ago. And I wanted to see what it was like. And I'm walking down the street and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, it hasn't changed. And then I saw these jewelry shops that I used to buy jewelry from. And I went, let's go and have a look. And then I sat there and went, what am I doing? I own an antique and jewelry shop. So I ended up buying jewelry to sell here. And it was like, but I'm always asking, how many more revenue streams can I invite into my life? And I want to say, though, for me, it's like I have learned and I've taught myself to enjoy money and to have money. I've definitely pushed it aside, like when I was so in debt and did all of that. I've learned to receive that, but I basically do choose things that are joyful for me and make me happy. That's the grounds for how I choose.
Let's talk about that happiness, and hopefully this will start to segue into joy, because what's the difference between energetically, obviously there's the financial bank balance, but what's the difference energetically between the Simone that was almost 200 grand, 187 Aussie K in debt, versus the Simone that is traveling to India in Paharganj and sort of going, hey, like, I'm going to bring some jewelry back to my antique store and this is going to be loads of fun. What's energetically the difference between the two Simones?
The willingness to be way more present with my choices, and to also acknowledge that I am capable of choosing what it is that I'm asking for. I was very much ignorant and avoided things, like that energy of if you think you avoid it, it's just going to go away. It doesn't. And I mean, I'm in my early 50s now, and I wouldn't want to be in my 20s for anything. I actually wouldn't even want to be in my 30s. 40s was great, and it's like, but 50s is looking like it's even better. So it's that same thing. I think in my 20s, what I was willing to look at was maybe 15% of what I was truly choosing. And as I've gotten older, I think you stop judging yourself so much and judging your choices. That's what I found. And realizing that your choices lead you to something different. I mean, in business alone, it's like I've seen so many people who don't choose something based on, oh, what if something goes wrong? And it's like, it might. Business is not a sure thing. It's like everything you choose is
fraught with uncertainty.
Yeah, it is. And for me, I've lost money. I've lost companies. I've made money. I've been successful. I've done it all. And the places where I guess, I don't know, stuffed up, as according to this reality would say, oh, you lost money or you did something wrong or whatever. My gosh, have I gained awareness, like so much awareness. I mean, I told you before we started this show, I'm going through something at the moment, some legal issues. And it's really interesting. And I know I'm going to come out the other side as a greater person. I'm going to come
Hmm.
out more of me, because what it's bringing up is all these different things for myself that I'm not always willing to have a look at. Like
Hmm.
I always trip up on believing people. Somewhere in my world, I've always thought, I don't know, like this utopian ideal that everyone is going to say what they mean and be kind and honest and truthful. And I continuously realize that is not true.
Always the case. Mm.
Just me wishing it was isn't going to make that true. So what I learn and I gain the awareness from, and I think when you gain awareness, it's just that's invaluable. You can't put
Mm.
a money, thing on that or anything. It's like when you gain that awareness, you become more of you, and then your choices are made from a bigger space of possibilities. Like, because it's not about getting angry, it's not about, revenge, it's not about anything like that. It's what if you chose, like, from this level of allowance you have of what other people choose, what you choose, um, you know, like I guess like the strongest potency I would say is your point of view is that you don't really have a point of view. You're willing to take any different angle and choose what is going to create a greater possibility. And that's what I reach for every day.
Wow. Okay, so the key difference between then and now is you being able to be, well, greater levels of awareness, non-judgment, but the key thing in there is choice, being able to choose. But it's almost like peeling back without judgment gives you the variety of perspectives to afford yourself, and then finally move towards and go, hey, that's the most empowered position to sort of choose, and that's the mindset, that's the approach, that's the perspective, that's the identity I'm willing to adopt in order to facilitate the outcomes that I'm looking to achieve. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say all of that, except for I don't
Mm,
try and look at a specific outcome.
right.
Because if I look for a specific outcome, what I've found over the years is that's more about me controlling it, and I'm asking
Mm,
for the greatest possibility to show up. Like literally what I do when I'm in bed, before I get up, I put my hands on my body somewhere and just ask a question and include my body in it. Like this morning, I'm just like, hey world, hey body. And it's like, what would it take for us to generate and create greater possibilities today?
mm.
So I'm not looking for a specific outcome. I'm asking for greater possibilities.
The left brain, logic brain in me is struggling here a little bit because if you know, which I know in an access consciousness conversation is like, excellent. I've done a couple episodes with Dane and Gary, so I know that
Aha, I see.
you've got me right where you want me.
I didn't know you'd spoken to Jane and Gary before, so there
But
you go.
yeah, but one of the nonetheless, without having a focus on an outcome, then I think potentially for the audience tuning in, helping us to then, what are you choosing based on then? How do you make a choice if you're not looking at an outcome? What are you choosing? Are you choosing based on feeling? Are you choosing based on intuition? What is it that's guiding your choices potentially?
Okay,
Mm.
so if I look at one of the businesses that I have, Antiques and Possibilities, that's in Prigian Beach, and
Mm.
the lease was up, right? And we have in our lease like 3 by 3, so we could sign another lease. And the shop hasn't been doing that great recently. Like hardly anything has in the village at the moment. I think people are, as one of my business partners said, people start freaking out, the interest rates, they buy into everything, and then they realize, oh, I'm not dead, maybe I will start spending money. It's like it's weird. So it's not doing that great. But I don't look at that and go, oh my God, it's not doing that great. It's like, but I did go, okay, let's indulge. Do we want to continue this or not? Like, is it actually creating a greater possibility? So when I look at the energy of that and go, I mean, I sat there on my veranda with my business partner, asking questions, going, is this creating a greater possibility? Does the shop still desire to exist? Like everything
Mm.
has consciousness. So we literally
Mm.
asked the shop, and the shop's like, yes. We went, okay. So it was like, okay, where would our life be in 5 years' time if we signed the lease? Where would our life be in 5 years' time if we didn't sign the lease? Like, because you get a download of an energy. When you're willing to be out of control, you'll get this, like a download of the possibilities, but not from putting it into this linear perspective. So,
Mm.
and what I found really interesting is we chose to sign the lease, right? And this was like, I don't know, 10 days ago. as soon as we signed the lease, even the staff noticed. They were like, wow, the shop feels so different. And we started making sales, and we started making enough sales to pay staff and pay rent. Because at one stage we were like, where are we getting money from to pay staff, and from this business? And it started something different. It's almost like, for me, and I know that people might think that that's being a total nutter, but I don't care. I really don't care anymore. Like I said, early 50s, you don't really care what anyone thinks about you. So I look at it, and the shop sort of, I know it had this energy of like, oh, you desire me. It's sort of like, like a peacock sort of thing. It's like, it's up going, okay, you desire me, I will be here for you. And then it's a whole new realm of different questions that you be with it. So it is really energetic. And I know it might sound really wishy-washy, but it's way better than trying to get the result that you think should show up rather than allowing it to show up the way it would like. And that is, and it's something you have to choose, and something you just have to play with and engage in. And I get it. People are like, no, we have to reach budget, we have to do all this. And I'm like, that never makes sense to me. Like, I can do a budget. I can do a budget for a bank or an investor or something like that, but it's so limiting to me if you're going to go, oh, this is what we're aiming for, this is what, and it's like, really? You're not allowing any other possibility to show up because you're focusing on this.
And I think potentially that's perhaps why, because that openness isn't part of their conversation, potentially why joy of business is not available to them as a conversation too. So interesting, because I was smoking along a little bit, and part of me for that, because I have definitely been, I can put both hands up as, I identify at those moments where I've set like myself targets even in the Inspired Evolution business, and gone, yep, we're going to get to here, and then we're chugging along towards it, and then it starts to get really like, not flowy, and then I'm like, no, that's just the resistance. I've got to prove that I really want it. And then it just keeps getting harder and harder and harder. And it's like, when do you get the message, mate, that you just need to stop driving towards that? And there's this whole world of opportunity over here where things are just flowing, and just go there. And it's taken a minute to be able to learn to soften and allow, and it's much more feminine as a way of approaching things than the masculine approach. I guess we run the risk at this particular juncture in the conversation to be a bit more theoretical, and I kind of want to bring it back to something that's a bit more takeawayable for the audience. And I'm not sure if you're willing to do this, but I've seen you guide this process before, and I personally got a lot out of it. So I was wondering if you'd do us the honors of potentially doing it today. Feel free to say no. Inviting just like a quick short exercise for potentially those business owners tuning in, or maybe even if you've got a job, you can tune in a similar way to, approaching a conversation. But you mentioned before that you were having a conversation with the antique store and like seeing, and then, it evolved and opened up to you and it started peacocking. Whoa, like for some people tuning in, it's like, I've never really spoken to my business, or I've never really looked at it that way, like as a different energetic entity that's out there. It's always just been an inanimate object. How do I talk to it? Can you potentially guide us into feeling into the energy of a business? And then hopefully that's a practical takeaway that the audience can, feel into.
Have you listened to my energy pools in business? Is that what you're talking about?
I love them.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, so let's do this. All right, so what I would want you to do, if you are listening to this, is I want you to put your attention on your current business. So Amrit, you've got the Inspired Evolution, okay? That's one of your businesses. Now, if you don't actually have a business, you have an idea, okay? So I want you to put your attention on that idea. It could be something that just keeps pinging you, and you're like, "Ooh, what about this? What about this?" And it could be any of your businesses, any of your projects, etc. And just put your attention on it. Now, what I want you to do is, I'm going to shut my eyes because it's just easier for me too. So if anyone else is watching, I would shut your eyes too, just because we tend to get distracted when we look at stuff too. So if you put your attention on the business, I'm going to put my attention on antiques and possibilities as well. And it's like, I just want you to like be more space. So you, the body is here, right? You can touch your body, but you, the being, can be everywhere. And I want you to go about 100,000 kilometers outside of your body, okay? So go about 100,000 kilometers outside of your body, because when you give yourself space with the business, you hear something different. You have these like whispers of consciousness that is something different. So, and I would like you to destroy and uncreate your relationship with your business. Now, don't freak out. This is not about like destroying your business. It's about destroying all of the places that you have a barrier, you have the limitations, you have a point of view, a fixed point of view, anywhere that you're looking for a result that you've decided is the right result, any of that. So you're destroying and uncreating everything that you've decided about you being in this business, about having this business, this idea, this project, whatever it is. And then use the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement, which is everything that is, destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys, provids, and beyonds. And we'll give you the link of where you can find out more about that if you desire. And then what I want you to do is have a look at the business, right? What have you been avoiding with the business? What have you been trying to prove with the business? It's like, how many presumptive realities, like how much are you presuming what should happen with this business do you have? And everything at that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys, provids, and beyonds. Now, whatever the business is, it could be a service, like you could be a massage therapist, or it could be a retail shop or a restaurant, anything, or a podcast, anything. And what I want you to do is I want you to ask the business and the project to pull massive amounts of energy from the entirety of the world. And if you say, how do I do that? It's like, just practice, just do it. It's like you pull massive amounts of energy from every single person over the entirety of the world. Not just where you are located geographically. Okay, the whole entire world. Every single person, pull it into the business so that they now know that the business exists. They can sense it. Somewhere in their world, they know it's available. And then I want you to ask the business, not you, the business. I want you to ask the business to let these little trickles go out across the whole entire world to every single person who's looking for your business, who's seeking it, who's asking questions. And then let's add in every single other person who doesn't even realize that they're asking for it. And ask the business to let these little trickles go out to the entirety of the world. It's almost like from Avatar and the Awa tree and those brushes from the tree. They're just blowing in the wind. And let those just land where they land. And then I want you to ask the business and the project to create this energy flow. And the energy flow is where it's like pulling energy into the business and then flowing back out, pulling energy into the business and flowing back out. So this energy flow becomes like this equalization that just occurs, whether you're asleep, whether you're awake, whatever. But ask the business to do this, to create this, to generate this. Because every single business, every single project has a consciousness of its own. And a lot of the times people will start to go to the wrongness or negate their business when they can't, quote unquote, feel it anymore. But what I want you to ask is, has your business, has your project become something of its own? And ask it to contribute to you and you contribute to it. And the business is the source, okay? And then keep asking for that energy to come into the business and the business to send it out. Like, say, for me, Antiques and Possibilities, it's like all the antiques, all the jewelry in the shop. Can you please go find your owners? Whether it's online or it's someone walking into the shop, can you please pull in the owners? So if you were selling real estate, ask the house that you're selling to pull the owner in. And everything that doesn't allow all of this to show up with ease and joy and glory, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys, provids, and beyonds. And I want you to go even further out your being. So go 200,000, 500,000 kilometers outside of your body, because you actually have the ability to perceive everything going on across the whole entire world. Not just what you can see and hear. You're an infinite being. And an infinite being has the ability to perceive, know, be, and receive everything. And then what I want you to do is, you've still got your attention on the business, the project, etc. Just ask to flick that one molecule that changes everything and ask to create and generate greater possibilities. More money, more revenue streams, more possibilities, whatever it is you're asking for. Just flick the one molecule. And then every single day you can wake up. I find, like I said before, I like lying in bed and asking questions in bed when I first wake up. I'm very creative when I wake up. And just flick the one molecule that allows the change to occur. And be with that energy. And everything it doesn't allow you to know that you can be that energy and be that energy with your business every single day where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pop and pot all nine, shorts, boys, proverbs, and beyonds. And enjoy the space. And the magic. Gotta acknowledge the magic. The smallest of things that show up. Acknowledge that magic, because when you acknowledge those small magic and the miracles, it's like then you're actually inviting bigger magic and bigger miracles to show up. And everything with that is times a good theme. We destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad. Pock and pot all nine, shorts, boys, proverbs, and beyonds. Whew. How was that, Emmett?
I love them. I love them.
So for your listeners, I have some business energy pools, and I also have some money energy pools. Although we nicknamed it Moneygy because I made a quote unquote mistake when I went to say money energy pool and I called it Moneygy. So now everyone says the Moneygy pools.
The Moneygy pools.
I have two free ones on my YouTube. So there's one with money and one with business, and I think they're 30 minutes long, and it's on
They're
my
definitely
YouTube.
worth going to check out.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if you
Yeah.
want to buy some, you can buy them. But yeah, you can go check
I'll chuck
it
a link
out.
to I'll chuck a link to both of them in the description in this podcast episode on the YouTube channel below for everyone to check out.
Thanks.
Even just spending, like, I really appreciate the guided process of it, but and not to discount any of it, like a lot of the clearing statements, your relationship with it, super valuable. But even just taking that time to spend time with your business in that way, invaluable.
Well, it's palpable, the energy. I mean, even notice now, it's like there's more of a sense of peace. There's not the
Around
frantic.
both of us. Yeah.
I mean, you start your podcast before anyone comes on, and I like the way it's just a few seconds, but you're like, it's like this, like, okay, breathe. And we don't do that enough. Like, just, and it doesn't have to be significant. It doesn't have to be like this hour-long something. It could literally be 10 seconds if you just go, okay, now what? Like the next time you've got frantic or stressful, just take a breath and ask a question. Okay, now what?
Simone, have you ever tuned into your business in this way and been overwhelmed by what is presented to you?
No, I would say I've been overjoyed. Because I think overwhelmed is one of the biggest lies that we tell ourselves.
Yo, tell me more about that.
We create like we go, I'm overwhelmed. And it's like, well, hang on a second. If you just take a breath, what is it that you've decided you're overwhelmed with? Like, what is it that you're unwilling to be? Do you need to ask for help? I mean, there's one of my favorite books in the world is called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. Have you ever read it?
No.
It's a 34-minute animated movie on Apple TV at the moment as well. It's so beautiful, right? So the boy, the mole, the fox, and the horse. And there's this one line in it, and the boy says to the horse, "What's the bravest thing you've ever done?" And the horse says, "Ask for help." And I was like, it's so beautiful because we go to this overwhelm and then we do this contracted thing and thinking that we have to do everything ourselves, and it's not true. You may ask for help from people. You may ask for help from, I don't know, your dog, your plants. Like, I talk to my plants all the time. The earth. It's like, okay, show me something else that's possible. Like, the question I've been asking recently as I'm driving along in my car, I'm like, hey, universe, show me something I haven't been willing to receive yet. I don't know what's going to show up. Let's go. I'm up for it. I'm
Yeah.
up for that adventure.
The openness there.
Yeah.
Access consciousness is your biggest business venture that you've invested yourself into. Does it? Are you like? Yeah, how are you finding navigating that? Because it is a business centered on consciousness and it's very fluid, and everything we're discussing is so fluid. And, hearing you talk now makes a lot of sense in terms of the fluidity that you like, the joy and the ease that you like to sort of create, and just the freedom of flow. But is this always what you saw for yourself in terms of access consciousness facilitation? And the second part to that question would be, is it a necessary ingredient, in your humble opinion, to your greater success?
Okay, so first of all, I just knew I wanted to do something different and wanted to have some sort of impact on the world. Like when I was at high school and people were like, what are you going to go study? What are you going to do? And some people were like, what they wanted to study law, or I don't know, anything. And
Yeah.
some wanted to get married and have kids. And I was like, I want to see the world. Like I just had this
Mm,
bursting thing. I wanted to travel the world, see the world and see how people lived and what I could contribute. And I guess that what I could contribute was a very thing in the back of my head, like, because I was
mm.
like, I don't know what this is. And I was living in London at one stage, one of those Aussie backpackers in 3-bedroom house with 21 people and one bathroom, that crazy sort of old.
Classic. Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things that I did to get some space for myself was I would quite often jump on, one of the big red buses and I didn't have much money. So I was like, riding across London and I would write and I would write, 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 write. And I remember seeing there was actually a famous musician that I saw off the side of the bus, and she had this T-shirt on that had something, I can't remember the words, but it was something really derogatory. And I
Mm,
thought, God, you have the power and potency to wear something in a T-shirt on your chest that could change somebody's day, just by reading.
mm,
You have that impact, and you're choosing that. And I was like, interesting. So then I started writing this whole piece on vulnerability, and I was like, what if people could be more vulnerable with each other and just push those barriers down? Like when kids meet each other and a kid's just like, they don't even care about your name. They're not like, how much money do you have in the bank account? What religion are you? Have you been married? Are you like, da da da?
mm.
They're just like, you want to play? And
Yes.
that. And I'm like, where do you lose that? And
Yeah.
what if we had that energy with ourselves? And then I created this whole concept of doing T-shirts with sayings
Mm,
on them that I perceived could change someone's life just by reading them. So
mm,
that business was, that created on a big red bus in London, and then skip to the future. I created this business called Good Vibes for You, and
mm,
we did T-shirts, magnets, stickers, and then I ended up doing merchandise for musicians. So Pete Murray, you
mm.
know Pete Murray, he
Yeah.
um he was one of the first guys I did merchandise for, and went on tour with him. And I just found Access then, and
Yeah.
I'm on tour, and I created all this merchandise, and it was so beautiful, and selling, and AAA passes, love music, and
Mm,
backstage everywhere. And at that moment in life where you go, okay, I've got everything I thought I wanted. And then you go, is this actually what I
mm.
want? And this friend of mine, who's also a musician, said to me, hey, are you enjoying being on tour?
Mm.
And I was like, ooh, good question. I was like, I like
Yeah.
being on tour, but I'm not so sure I want to be on tour with music, even though I love music. I think
Mm.
I want to be on tour with something else. And he was like, what? And then I started talking to him about Access. I was like, this is stuff that I just found. I was like, it's changed my life. I would love to change other people's lives. So that's sort of how I navigated into
Mm.
that. And to me, but I mean, yes, there's so much of the energetic stuff, but God, there's a lot of, really practical, pragmatic tools and access consciousness that can change any area of your life.
Mhm.
Like money, for example. Like I changed my life, my financial reality using the access tools.
Mm.
So, relationship, it's like your body, it's like business, all of it. It's like family, it's like anything, because the whole basis of it is asking questions and being more aware, and what is it you'd like to create, and then going out and choosing that. What action do you need to take?
Mhm.
So yeah, I was very much had that desire to be some sort of to contribute to the earth and change the world in some way. I mean, I don't think the earth needed changing. I think people's points of view and attitudes maybe, needed a little nudge. But yeah, so that's where that derived from. And sorry, I forget the second part of your question.
Was how fundamental were the tools that you just were describing to your business success? And yeah, maybe you can elaborate on what, because I know there's a clearing statement. I know there's a whole line of questioning. I know there's and judgment. Letting that go is a huge piece.
Oh, that was one of my favorite things, Amrit. That was one of the first things I realized. I was like, I went to this class with Gary in Sydney called Out of the Box. And I walked home to this friend of mine's house and I was lying on her couch and I was like just trying to find anything about access. And because at that stage there wasn't much on there. This is like 21 years ago.
Yeah.
And I found this piece on judgment and this woman had written like basically being in no judgment. And I just lay there and I was like, I remember lying there going, what would a world be like with no judgment? Like if you never judged yourself again. Because most people wake up with this litany of judgment.
Let alone others, just yourself.
Exactly, yeah. Well, actually, most of us judge ourselves more harshly than somebody else. We're like, man, we're an allowance of them, but ourselves.
Yeah, we don't talk much about that though. yeah.
No, we judge our bodies, we judge the money that we don't have, we judge our business, we judge our relationships, we judge it all. And it's like, what if we stopped? What if the next time you're in judgment of yourself, you went, you know what, I'm not choosing this anymore. It doesn't get you anywhere. I mean, classic example, if you judge, I don't know, you've got, a big bum and it's like, you don't wake up in the morning and your bottom changes. It's like, it gets bigger. You don't judge your bank account into, I've got no money, I've got no money, I've got no money, and wake up and there's money. It's like, judgment doesn't create anything greater. It creates less. So if you stop judging it, and so say for money, you went, okay, I'm done. What's it going to take for more money to show up in my life? What would I have to choose?
Not judging it, yeah.
And one of the, so here's the thing. When I came across Access Consciousness tools, I used them and they worked, right? And I had such a deep-seated point of view about money that I didn't use the tools with that. And I organized this seminar for Gary Douglas and Dane here to come out and do that. And it was in the Gold Coast and it was called Money's Not the Problem, You Are, which they have a book that's called that. And I organized the whole seminar and I'm sitting in the seminar and I could hear in my head going, oh, here we go again. They're talking about the money tools, And then I'm sitting there and I was like, what am I doing? And I was like, I've been using the tools and they've been working and changing areas of my life. Why am I not using them to do with money? And I realized that one of the things I'd done, Amrit, was when I gave up, I used to smoke cigarettes. And when I gave up smoking cigarettes, I told all my friends, and they were all like, you're not going to be able to do that. Oh, is it, and I went, wow, no one's really supportive of me. And I didn't. Yeah. And then when I did give up smoking cigarettes, took me 2 weeks before anyone noticed. And I just literally went cold turkey. And I realized a lot of the times in life, we look at others to be an inspiration to choose something. Whereas for me, I get you have to look within and go, I am the source of creation. I am the one that gets to choose this, and you'll find the people in life that actually do have your back and support you as you get older, I want to say. And then, so I knew that I had to choose this. So I literally chose a few tools, money tools, went home, went through all my accounts. That's when I realized that I was $187,000 in debt and really pretty much didn't have anything to show for it. And then started using these tools and they changed my financial reality. Like I have money, I have wealth creation, and it just gets better and better and greater and greater. So there's some pragmatic tools out there that can change your financial reality.
Yeah, for those that follow me on Facebook, I wrote a post on martyrdom the other day that I got from actually Jordan Peterson, and he wrote, it's not virtuous to be victimized by a bully. And I was thinking about that, it's not virtuous to be victimized by a bully. And then he went even further to say, even if that bully is yourself. And I was like,
you were going to go there.
Damn, man. I was just like, and we're always doing that, right? And yeah, it's like your resistance in that space to like looking at it. And, thank you so much for being so vulnerable and sharing that, because we all have these areas where You just won't look. Whether for some people it's relationships, for some people it's money, for some people it's wealth creation, for some people it's investment, for some people it's just spent like giving themselves the time that they deserve to be with themselves. It could be working out, it could be a whole bunch of stuff, health, whatever. Yeah, when you espouse working with access consciousness, where do you advise people usually get started? Like specifically, especially because you're Aussie, how do people touch base to sort of find their way to some of the tools that you've been describing? Yeah.
Look, what I'd highly recommend is starting with the bars class, and that's a hands-on process that we do. It's like 32 different points on the head, like things like, body, sexuality, money, control, healing, gratitude, aging, all these different things. And you can get your bars run, and it just starts to, the best way I can describe it is it's like, if you have documents open on your computer, which, I'm sure we all go through those stages where my computer goes, excuse me, can you please shut some things? Like you have to, I'm like, okay, and then you go delete, 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 delete. And then you're like, you have this space. And that's what bars gives you, right? So I'd highly recommend bars class. But in saying that, that was not the thing that attracted me. I was like, oh, I loved the processing and I loved these conversations. So I was like, bars, But now I get, it was like, because it's about lying down on a massage table and actually receiving. And I was just I want to say frantic. Like I was just like, run, 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 run. So for me, lying down on a table was like, it's a waste of time. So I didn't have that point of view, but I highly recommend it now because I don't know what I'd do without getting my bars run. But there's other classes like there's classes on business, there's classes on money, there's classes on relationships. There's many, many classes that you don't have to have done the bars class as a prerequisite. So, but my recommendation now is a bars class.
Yeah, check it out. There's plenty locally, like they're all over the world now, aren't there?
We're in like 176 countries or something like that, and there's thousands of facilitators.
There's thousands of them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can become a bars practitioner. Like you do 3 classes and of the same class, bars class, and you can become a practitioner as well. So there's there's other ways to have a look at access as well.
I love that. Now, arguably the first part of this, or why are we arguing? Anyway, summarizingly, the first part of this conversation has been dedicated to, I think, choice, really bring yourself back to choice, and always having the power to choose. One of the other points that I found following your journey was this the medicine of action and taking action. Can you espouse that to us a little bit and share, what it means to you? And at the risk of sounding somewhat like I'm preloading the question in a certain trajectory, the medicine of action, is it okay to just be taking action to sort of find what comes up next? Or is it about taking some time to premeditate, get clear, and then take the action? How do you take your next steps usually? And how do you encourage others to sort of take the next steps? I know it's a very loose, open, somewhat vague question, but I think when it comes to taking action, I even look at myself and it's like, all right, do I focus on this right now? Or do I focus on that? And it's like, and it's, how do you do that for yourself?
Okay, I get that actually it's all of that and it differs. So for instance, so I think the basis of this is, are you the type of person who wakes up in the morning and complains about what you don't have? Or are you the type of person who wakes up in the morning and goes, okay, I would like to, generate more money. I'd like to change something with my body. I'd like to do this, and then it's like, take action. Because there's way too many people sitting on the sideline, bitching and moaning and judging, but they're not doing anything. It's like, that's what they do. They bitch and moan and judge, rather than, Brene Brown said it really well in one of her TED Talks on vulnerability. And she said, if you're on stage, people are going to judge you. But who's judging you? The people sitting in the seats, not choosing anything, And what I've noticed is the more out there I've become, you do receive judgment and vilification. And it has at some point I've gone, whoa, and almost like wanted to stop what I was doing. And I had to look at that and go, hang on a second. It's like I would stop what I'm choosing based on somebody else judging me.
That's their choice.
I remember Gary said to me, Gary Douglas, it was beautiful conversation. And I rang him one day because I used to be the worldwide coordinator of Access Consciousness. And he said, I said, hey, I don't know if I can do this job anymore. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, I can't handle the judgments. And he said, tell me what's going on. And there was these three women who I considered were my friends. You know, this is the long, never-ending story of Simone Milasas, like, you know, thinking that everybody's like going to be kind and nice and whatever. And I thought they were my friends, and I heard stuff that were saying about me. So my immediate reaction was to go, maybe I shouldn't do this job. And he was so calm, and he said, okay, do me a favor. He said, I want you to do something for me, and please use this as a tool, everyone. He said, I want you to have a look at their lives and what they're choosing. Not based on judgment, just have a look at their lives and what they're choosing. Are they choosing a big life, a small life? And that's their choice, right? And I was like, okay. And I did that. And he said, now I want you to have a look at your life and what you're choosing. And I was like, okay, I was definitely choosing much more, jumping off more cliffs, doing all of that, you know. And he said, okay, are they judging you, or are they judging what they have not yet chosen and might never choose? And I was like, okay, so it's actually not about me. It's not personal. It's about them. And most people will judge somebody else so that they can, I don't know, make themselves feel better about what they're not choosing. So with that conversation, from that day, I just kept leaping forward and taking action and choosing. Because here's the thing too. When you make more money than everybody else in your family, like, it sounds like such a simple thing, you make people uncomfortable. When you make more money than your friends, you make people uncomfortable. How many people only make enough money so that they can be comfortable at the next family party gathering? Like, I know that sounds insane, but that's what occurs, right? Or what sort of relationship is it that you would like to choose? Like, I love talking about that too, because everyone thinks that they have to choose something, you know, that looks like this. No, it's your choice. You get to choose your life. So what would you like to choose with money? What would you like to choose with business? What would you like to choose, you know, with relationships, with sex, with your body, like all of it and more, and start to get clear on that. So that's that piece, I think, that you can get clear, but not make it definitive. It's like, okay, this, like, about 3 years ago, my Pilates instructor said to me, okay, what is it that you're asking for with your body? I went, good question. Because I'd spent the majority of my life asking to change the size and shape of my body and judge the hell out of it. You know, that was what you did. And then she asked me, and I went, good question. And I looked at it and I was like, what am I asking for? And I went, oh, I'm asking for flexibility and strength. You know, I didn't want to be one of those people that starts getting up from chairs, making old people noise. Oh, you know, I don't want to do that, right? So then that piece, you have a request, but what action am I going to take? So then, okay, what action can I take within Pilates, or what else is my body asking for? And then I started getting like a personal trainer, or asking my body, what is it that you would like to do? Do you want to walk, run, Pilates, stretch? And I found some amazing stretching mobility videos, because I travel, that you can do in your hotel room. And I am more flexible now than I've ever been in my life. But that was a request, and then taking the action, you know? So I think one of my favorite things that Warren Buffett ever said in regards to money, but you can take it into everything, is there was this interview I watched with him, and someone said to him, why do you think people don't listen to you with how to, you know, get rich, make more money? And he he said, most people want to do it overnight. And he said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think that's sort of up for everything. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So what action can you take today, you know?
Yeah.
And what if the action you took today was relaxation? Like, relax, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I like the marathon perspective as well that you've afforded us, because when you look at it as a marathon, it's even the way marathon runners run, their strides are significantly shorter than sprinters, right? Like, sprinters have these epically long strides. They're just trying to cover as much ground as fast as possible, but it's usually only 100 meters, 200 meters. But when you're doing 40 kilometers, it's almost like they're just walking, right? With like these really short strides, but they're almost, the faster ones, really incredibly interesting cadences that they afford us. But I'm digressing from the point, which is, the shorter, so when it's a marathon, taking smaller steps can be really, really helpful. I've noticed that for myself as well. especially in business. It's like it can be just taking the next small step. Even we talk about energetics. Sometimes it's just letting the business know that I'm willing to show up in the smallest way possible, that it responds differently to me, and it goes, hey, oh, thank you. You're listening. It's like, I'm trying. It's
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Simone, there is so much more that is available to people tuning into your work. I've tried to do some justice in this podcast to business, energetics, joy, but I know there's also like a lot of pragmatic stuff. Thank you so much for doing one of the pools to helping us dial into energetics around the business. For those that want to tune into more around specifically your work in around access, how do we find more about Simone?
Look, I have a great name because if you Google it, I have never found another Simone Milasas. So you Google my name, Simone Milasas. My website is Simone Milasas. My Instagram, Facebook handle is Simone Milasas. So, it's very easy. So it's all there. And also you can go to accessconsciousness.com and find people in your country, city, area. There's lots of stuff we have online. There's lots of live classes, a lot of fun stuff. So, yeah.
Beautiful. I'll put links to all of that in the show notes below. Simone, I've got to ask one last little question, which is, what does inspired evolution mean to you? When you feel into inspired evolution, what does the future look like for you?
Wow. To me, okay, so I'm going to break it down slightly because the evolution side to me is we are forever evolving, and, we think we know what's next. But if we let ourselves be out of control, what is truly next? We've got so many scientific-based stuff, and it's like, what evolution can we receive? And for me, the inspired is, there's a hell of a lot of people out there who truly inspire me by the choices that they make, the ones that just go, I don't care what you think. I'm not looking for you to like me. I'm not looking to be like anyone else. I'm choosing what I know is possible. And for me, that inspiration is the evolution of greater possibilities here on the planet.
Thank you so much for sharing yourself so abundantly here with us today, Sister Bear. I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much, Amrit. I've so enjoyed being on here. You've made my day.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to its end. Obviously, you absolutely love this podcast, and I want to thank you so much for watching this all the way through. Here is another video that's perfectly curated just for you to watch as the next best video to keep your inspiration flowing, to keep you evolving, to keep you yelling. Check it out now.